Welcome everyone to the MRA Mountain Rescue Association Mapping Hangout number 8. In this video we're going to go through some very basic steps for creating your first web mapping application, and it'll look a little bit like the one you see here on the screen. This video is part of a series. It's on a MRA Mapping Hangouts playlist. You can search for it on Google. And last week we covered making your first web map. This involves just 5 simple steps of choosing a base map, adding some layers, in this case an editable layer for Maps Are Online, changing the style, configuring some pop-ups, and saving the map. You'll then, in this video, share that web map into a web mapping application, some very specialized tools, such as a tool for editing, which allows us to add operational points to our map, printing, and other tools that you might need during a search and rescue incident. So this process involves creating a new app, picking the style, adding some widgets, and then previewing and publishing this app so we can see how it works and share it with our people we're collaborating with. So let's go back to the web map we created last week, or last month. This web map now has a base map which can be changed. Right now it's the USGS topographic map, but we can change this to a variety of other base maps to fit our needs. And we've got some layers. These layers can be turned on and off, but right now there's no data in these layers. So let's test out editing inside of a web map. If your web map has layers that can be edited, you'll go ahead and click on this Edit button here. This will allow us to add points to the map. When we're doing this, we're not just adding images to the map, we're actually adding data. I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. So now we've added a point to the map. You'll see here that in GIS, when we create maps and we edit layers, we're not just putting a point on the map. We're actually allowing us to enter some information. Behind the data, behind the map is data stored in what we call an attribute table. And we can edit this here. To review a little bit of GIS, typically when we're editing layers like this, we can edit points, lines, and polygons. An example of a polygon in this case might be our first search assignment. And again, data is stored behind this polygon so that we know what it is. We can come back to it later. Okay, so that's a quick review of editing inside the web map. Now, while this web map is a very useful tool, you'll see that it has a lot of buttons and different tools that may not be important for my mission and may not be important for my audience. So what we'd like to do is share this web map using a web mapping application. To share this web map as a web mapping application, we're going to click on the Share button. Right now, this web map's only shared with myself, but I'd like to share this with the rest of my organization. If I had an incident group, I could also share this with other people that we're collaborating with during our incident. You'll see here, it's asking me for permission to share the layer in the web map in the same way, and I'd like to do that so that everybody inside my organization can access this. We'll talk more about sharing in later episodes. Okay, so now our web map is ready to share. We want to click on the Create a Web App button. From here, you'll see a variety of focused applications, and we can search for them In an earlier video, we made an elevation profile map, which generates an elevation profile for line features in the map. However, we'd like to create a MapSAR online application that allows us to respond to a basic search and rescue incident. For this, we'll want to create a custom application, and we'll do that by clicking on the Web App Builder tab. I'll quickly give this a name. A summary. And I'll choose where to save it. In this case, I have a folder for this project. So now what we're doing is we're going from a web map and we're wrapping it inside of an application. So it's almost like we hired a developer to write some code for us, and it's really just getting started. So now you've created your first web mapping application. Let's start with choosing the theme for this application. You'll see here there's a variety of different layouts we can choose from, and one that I've found to be quite easy to understand is the tab theme. This is a theme that allows me to dock some tools or widgets on the left-hand side of my map and also on screen. I can change the colors here, and then I can begin to start adding some widgets. The first thing I'd like to do is configure a widget that's already on screen or already in my app. In this case, I'd like to configure the coordinates widget. You'll see here, as I move my mouse across the map, it's changing the coordinate system at the bottom. Right now it's in decimal degrees, but because we're doing search and rescue, I'd like to configure a different coordinate system. So I click on the little pencil icon, and I'll see here that I've got a coordinate system in there, but I'd like to change the units. So I'll click on Edit. From here, I'd like to change the coordinate notation to US National Grid. I won't need decimal places or 1,000 separator for this. Now, as I move my mouse on screen, I'm seeing US National Grid coordinates. And if I click on the tool here, I can actually get coordinates of any location on the map. That can be read out or copied and pasted into another application. But now let's add our own widget. We'll start with adding a base map widget. To do this, we can do this in the side panel over here by adding it to the sidebar controller. Now there are over 30 widgets inside of Web App Builder, but what I'd like to do is just focus in on this base map widget. Here we'll see that I'm given a default list of base maps, and some of these might not be relevant for a search and rescue incident, so I'll remove them. I'll remove the National Geographic. We're not near an ocean right now, so I can pull that out. I can always add it back later. We've already got some terrain maps in there. And I'm just making this less overwhelming for the end user. You can see here, all of these maps might have a use, so I'll keep them, especially OpenStreetMap when you're working in environments that are maybe where the GIS data hasn't been kept up to date, such as in third world nations. Okay, so now I have a web map, a base map gallery widget embedded right inside of my app, and my end user will be able to try that at any time. Next, let's add a widget right onto the screen to really capture their attention, and maybe it's the primary widget that my audience will be using. So in this case, I want to be able to add an editing widget. For this, we'll use the Smart Editor. Now at any time, if you'd like to know a little bit more about how a widget works, each widget has a Learn More About This Widget link. On this link, it'll explain all the different parts of the widget and how to use it. And there's a list on the side for learning about all the different functions of these widgets. I highly recommend you look through these. Okay, so now we've got my Smart Editor widget. I'd like to allow my user to be able to delete points. Oh, there might be times when you don't want them to. I'd like to require confirmation when deleting a record. And maybe if I'd like, I can put some more detailed instructions in here. It says select a template to create features, but I'll say click Okay, so now when the user clicks on this Smart Editor widget, they'll get some basic instructions. Click in the palette below, then put the point on the map. If I want to plot an incident command post, we can do that simply by doing that. And as you see here, we get the same pop-up window to enter information. And we can turn off any of these fields if they're not relevant by going back to the web map and using that configure attributes in the pop-up. Another widget you might want to add for search and rescue purposes is a print widget. The print widget will allow them to simply print a copy of the map, and we can set some default into this print widget here. Ideally, you'd have a print utility that allows you to print some custom layouts, but in this case, we'll just use the default. You can choose the default size, although the end user can override that at any time. So now we've added a print widget to our map, which just allows them to print a quick map in any format that you see here. PDFs work pretty well. While that's printing, we can continue to take a look at this map. I'll want to save it. And I can even preview this. So for instance, if you know someone will be using your app with an iPad or iPhone, we can preview what that'll look like based on the screen size. All right, let's add one more widget for now. This one's really important. This is the one that allows us to collaborate with other people through sharing. This is the share widget. It's not a whole lot to configure here. Depending on whether or not this is a public map, we may want to turn off some social media, but I'll leave the email option in there. We'll take a look at that in a second. What we want to do now is launch our app and see how it'll perform outside of the builder mode. You'll notice here the URL says web app viewer, not web app builder. So now this is live. This application can be used, and we can share it with other people in our organization. If I need to share this app, I can of course use the share widget. Here, this will give me a nice short link that's easy for me to share, and I can click here to email it. Which in this case opens up my email client called Mailbird. Or if I'd like, there's some more advanced options. So right now, only people in my organization can use this app, but if I needed to send it to someone real quickly for them to update the map, I can use these advanced options, which says authenticate a user automatically. What this means is it'll temporarily give someone access to my map